listening to the Labor Notes podcast, the weekly show from Labor Notes on rank and file news and organizing tactics. I'm pod co-host Natascha Elena Uhlmann.
And I'm your other co-host, Danielle Smith. Today we're back in the Stewards corner, which is what we call it when you get stuck sitting next to me and Natascha at happy hour and are trying to vent about work, but we just keep offering organizing solutions.
Wait, no, well, yes. But the Stewards Corner we're talking about today is the regular long-running column in the Labor Notes magazine with tips and advice for stewards trying to organize their coworkers. And right now, it's not at the bar, it's on the podcast.
Wait, does that mean Joe's here?
Hey, yes it does. I'm Joe DeManuelle Hall. I work at Labor Notes.
So, Joe, last time we had you on, we talked about how we can bring union meetings to the members, but unfortunately, members aren't the only ones we have to meet with. Sometimes we have to have meetings with management, which can offer its own challenges. We had a piece back in 2014 by the late labor educator Charlie Richardson, which is still very relevant. It's called How to Act Like a Union on a Labor Management Committee, and you can find it on our website at labornotes.org. Joe, before we get into some of the dynamics on labor management committees and how members should approach these meetings, can you lay out what these committees are meant for?
Absolutely. So many union contracts include provisions for non-grievance ways to resolve issues that come up in between contract negotiations. Sometimes these are one-off meetings that can be requested based on particular topics. Other times these are standing committees that meet regularly, say monthly. I think the sort of rosy, harmonious version of this is that it would be a place where representatives from management and the union can hash things out in a collaborative way or on an equal playing field. In practice, though, these can be really frustrating, and many workers I've talked with have thought of them as a waste of time.
Richardson wrote that the union should approach every meeting of the committee with the same mindset and habits that it would take to contract bargaining, never forgetting that management's goals and the union's are distinct. What does bringing a bargaining approach look like in practice?
I think the goal is really to act like a union. When we bargain, we recognize that management is coming to the table with an agenda that's often distinct from ours, and that we have our own agenda. These meetings can make that kind of fuzzy, that we're all sitting here around a table on the same side trying to come to solutions together. And so to act like a union in these meetings, it makes sense to do some of the basic things you would do in bargaining. In the article, Richardson talks about some of them, starting with how you decide who's on the committee, what their orientation to the membership should be, and some practices around preparing before and debriefing after these meetings.
Richardson's piece also talks about some of the tactics management uses to undermine and disorganize the unit in these meetings, like trying to limit the meeting duration on the fly, sending representatives with no decision-making power, disregarding the agenda, things like that. What is the message these tactics send, and how should union members on the committee respond?
I think the management message is that they're in control, that they're the authority and they get to set the terms. Management often likes to think of these as their meetings with their workers who are there as part of something akin to a focus group. One example is that management might try to get members of the committee to participate in a brainstorm type of activity, which, as Richardson points out, risks pitting those on the union side against each other, in addition to the danger of airing ideas that might actually be concessions. And our message has to be, that's not how this is going to work. This is our meeting, we have goals, and we're here acting with unity. And so in practice, that can look like negotiating the agenda with management and holding management to it when they try to veer off, having a pre-meeting where you get clear about what the union's position is going to be on the various issues that are going to come up in the meeting, and calling a caucus when your side needs to get on the same page when something comes up in the meeting. And more generally, things like demanding timelines from management when they offer resolutions. You can also tell management that they need to have decision makers on the committee, and if not, that you'll have to consider if the meeting is worth your time and whether you're going to continue participating. Some of the more subtle choices matter too, like how people show up in the room. If the meeting is in person, is everybody sitting together, or is management trying to spread people out and pepper union members among management? That's not how we sit when we bargain. And visual appearance matters too. Are people wearing union gear? If it's online, can people have the union logo as their background?
Yeah, on that note, what does leverage look like on these labor management committees? What happens when management doesn't want to budge on an issue that's important to people?
Management is counting on workers on these committees to, as Richardson calls it, bargain with ourselves. That is, downgrade our demands to what we think management will accept so we don't look hostile or combative. It's crucial to reject that logic outright here. If we're invested in putting on this show of being cooperative, that's a great way to render these meetings meaningless, and another way to give management what they want. When you're fighting for something management doesn't want to do, you're inevitably going to hear excuses and delay tactics like, we can't afford this, we need to study this, or we need to check with somebody else about this who isn't in this meeting. You're going to have to figure out how to move management on these issues. What we've got to ask here is, how can we show unity? How can we show the members care about these issues beyond just the committee? And what does management want out of these meetings? Where's the leverage in that? Just like in bargaining, your demands aren't won by the best argument at the table, but by how strong and united the membership is. Collective actions like sticker days or t-shirt days, parking lot meetings or rallies, and petitions can help move the needle and show management that they've got to move on an issue. Again, it all comes back to acting like a union.
That's amazing. Is there anything else people should know?
If people want to do a deeper dive into this topic, there's a really great guide that Charlie Richardson wrote up on labor management meetings and the union approach to this. The article is really a short version. And sign up for the Stewards newsletter. We link to resources and Labor Notes training for stewards, and it's a great way to keep up. You can email Danielle at Labor Notes to sign up for these.
Thanks, Joe. We'll be sure to pop that guide in the show notes. Well, I hope you enjoyed your stay in the Stewards Corner. That's our show.
Our next Stewards workshop that I'll be leading on the topic of holding effective meetings will be on Monday, August 18th. You might remember we did a podcast episode on that earlier this year. And we'll have our next round of Secrets of a Successful Organizer in September. We also have a number of in-person Troublemaker School coming up in Durham, North Carolina, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Toronto, Canada. You can sign up at labornotes.org/events.
Please rate us or leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. If you're listening to us on Podbean at labornotespodcast.podbean.com, download our episode.
The Labor Notes podcast is produced by Natascha, Elena Uhlmann, Sindhu Sundar, and myself. Our title music was written and performed by Labor Notes Labor Climate Organizer Keith Brower Brown. See you next week. Solidarity, all.